Hey, Thomas Horner here from High Point Weather. Let's take a look at our past storm, current conditions, and the forecast for next week and weekend. It's finally looking like December in the northern Colorado mountains. Impressive totals have been recorded across the state, particularly in the Park Range and in the Elk Mountains near Aspen. The storm has wrapped up now, leaving us with just strong winds as the jet stream continues to rage overhead. This is a map showing how snow depth has changed from Wednesday morning before the storm till today. You'll notice it doesn't quite line up with accumulations reported from the ski resorts. That's because this map accounts for compaction, sublimation, melting, etc. For instance, Vail has reported 29 inches of snow over the course of this event, yet their SNOTEL site is only showing 13 inches of new snow depth since Wednesday morning. That's due to the level of compaction and wind transport that has occurred. Our last forecast from Friday morning to Saturday morning did pretty well, although the storm generally didn't overperform. The main exception was the Aspen area, which greatly underperformed. One of the reasons this happened was due to dry air entrainment during the prime time hours of the event. You can see it as darker blue on the satellite view. This is in lieu of better moisture elsewhere in the state, as seen by the brighter colors. Despite low totals at the resorts, the higher terrain of the Elks was able to enhance orographic lift enough to pick up decent totals when moisture warranted it. Even though Aspen Highlands only picked up 2 inches of snow from Friday morning to Saturday morning, their weather station near Highlands Bowl picked up 9 inches. Flow aloft was also strong enough to help snow jump the divide and bring decent totals to areas east of it. For instance, Eldora picked up several inches of snow over the course of this event. Thanks to focused orographic lift, we also saw popular backcountry areas like Berthoud Pass, Jones Pass, and Loveland Pass pick up decent totals. Unsurprisingly, the Park Range picked up over 4 feet of snow, which is typical of these sort of events. Currently, the wind is blowing hard over the high peaks of Colorado, especially along the divide. A jet max is present over northeast Colorado and Wyoming, which is responsible for these winds. An associated mountain wave is bringing strong gusts east of the divide and into the eastern plains. This is a cross-section showing the mountain wave. This is as though you were looking at the horizon, with Kremlin to your left, and the high plains to your right. Denver would be about here in the middle, with the Continental Divide, this highest piece of terrain, slightly to the left. Everywhere else is the atmosphere as you get higher and higher in elevation. This dark blue splotch is an area of descent associated with the mountain wave. This is where we can find our strongest wind gusts. As you can see, wind gusts are high on the east side of the divide and all the way down into the west metro area. Despite some strong gusts in the west metro area, the wave doesn't look to be fully touching down. If we draw the wave, we can see it undulates over the Denver metro area before coming near the surface again in the eastern plains, where we see another region of high wind gusts. Winds aloft look a little bit like this, with areas of turbulence, or rotors, underneath the crests of the waves. Winds are impressive in the mountains right now. Winter Park recorded a gust of 115 miles per hour at the top of Panorama Lift. Breckenridge reported a gust of 98 miles per hour at the summit of Peak 8, and Niwot Ridge has been recording gusts of nearly 90 miles per hour all morning. There's currently a warm front separating us from high pressure in the northern United States, which is associated with a very cold Arctic air mass. This frontal boundary is obvious on satellite. The Weather Prediction Center has this boundary moving a bit west and becoming stationary over the course of the week. You can see on a temperature map just how big the temperature difference is between the areas to the west and east of this front. Because the I-25 corridor will be near the stationary front, we can expect some sloshing of the cold air to occur. This is obvious when looking at the animated temperature map. Look at how the cold air gets occasionally pushed up against the foothills over the next few days. Models haven't decided whether this boundary will break down and Arctic air will fully intrude into the urban corridor. Looking at a temperature chart of probabilistic ensemble guidance, we can see that two scenarios are fairly equally likely. One is that the air mass stays in far eastern Colorado, and in that case, highs in Denver over the weekend could be as high as the 50s or 40s. The other scenario is that the boundary breaks down and highs don't get much above the single digits in Denver for the weekend. The American GFS model shows this frigid Arctic air damming against the foothills and divide at the start of the weekend, keeping highs in the single digits and lows well into the negatives. Meanwhile, the European model keeps it at bay over the weekend. Regardless, parts of eastern Colorado will certainly see some very cold air, unsettled weather, and light snow at times. The coming week looks to be pretty active, though we're not seeing any impressive snow totals. As we get into the middle of the week, we can see a wave off the coast of California deepening. This week trough will bring several days of snow to Colorado. There's definitely uncertainty about how much this trough will deepen and how far south it will track. This will change the prevailing wind direction and impact which mountain ranges receive the most snow. In general, flow looks to be southwesterly or west-southwesterly, at least for the first few days of this event. We don't see a robust enough southerly component at this time for this to be a particularly great event for Wolf Creek. Instead, western Colorado looks to be favored. This includes Steamboat, especially as it picks up northwesterly flow behind the passage of the trough. We also see a decent amount of moisture associated with this system. The only thing preventing widespread heavy snowfall is the lack of large-scale lift. We talk about this event in greater detail in our forecast write-up. Because flow aloft is messy, uncertain, and disorganized, we can't really talk about much more than the general expected phases and overall distribution of greatest snow totals. However, we will see snow from Tuesday morning to Friday, potentially with some good northwest flow on the backside. As we get into the weekend, model guidance is even more uncertain. There are a few things we've noticed that seem to be fairly consistent across models and runs. One is some sort of wave on Friday night or Saturday morning. This is likely just a weak shortwave, but it could enhance northwest flow and orographic lift over northern Colorado. This would mean Saturday could be a pretty soft day for the Park Range, Summit County, Vail, and Grand County. We also see a pronounced signal for a deeper trough dropping south. Model guidance has trended towards digging this even further, and we could see this turn into a storm that brings significant snow totals to southwest Colorado. For now, guidance is suggesting the highest totals in western Colorado. If we look at the histograms of the ensemble blend, we can get a little better picture of what might happen and what scenarios are possible. Looking at Wolf Creek, we see over 30 inches of snow are possible on the deterministic run through the end of the weekend. However, the ensemble median is less than half of that. This indicates a high level of uncertainty. While the high end looks quite good, it is not the most likely scenario at this time. We do see a better than 10% chance that over 30 inches of snow could fall from Friday to Saturday. This does indicate that models could potentially move towards a much more snowy solution for Wolf Creek than they have right now, but it also indicates that the most likely solution is that these upper bounds come down and we see a fairly modest snow event for Wolf Creek. Looking at Independence Pass, which is near Aspen, model certainty is much better, as most solutions do have decent totals for western Colorado. Again, the higher end expectations are pretty nice, with an over 10% chance that Independence Pass could pick up over 18 inches of snow from Friday to Saturday. However, the deterministic is only at about 16 inches of snow through next weekend. Vail looks pretty similar. But when we move to northern Colorado, we can see a high level of uncertainty yet again, with the deterministic showing 2 feet of snow through next weekend and some very nice high-end expectations, including a better than 2% chance that Steamboat could pick up over 30 inches of snow between Friday and Saturday, but this seems very unlikely. And indeed, the ensemble medians are quite low, which would likely indicate that models are going to move towards a drier solution. However, we've seen them perform poorly with northwest flow, so we do expect some pretty decent accumulations by the end of the weekend. In the Summit County area, this is a histogram for Berthoud Pass. We see totals are not impressive. Less than a foot of snow is expected to fall on Berthoud Pass through next weekend. Again, we do see a chance for some much more interesting solutions, including about a 5% chance of accumulations over 18 inches from Friday to Saturday. Denver could see a little bit of snow towards the weekend as well. This kind of depends on whether that Arctic air mass engulfs the city or not. With that in mind, enjoy the week, enjoy the winds if you can. And until next time, check our social media for updates and new forecasts.